what you can see here is the Adam Matthew homepage. And I just wanted to, before we get into the two collections today, which again, just to reiterate, are American Indian Histories and Cultures and American West. But before we get into those two, I just wanted to show you the Adam Matthew homepage, just in case you ever have any questions or queries about either us as a publisher or the resources we produce. This is going to be a really good starting point for you. So if we just click into the Collections tab at the top. So here you can see all the digital archives and databases and resources that we produce, all in one handy list. So we can see American Indians and American West there, and all of the other resources which cover a huge expanse of time and various areas of world history. And while I'm here, I should probably just emphasize that if you ever want to trial any of these resources, if you're attached to a school, library, academic institution of any kind, you can request a free trial either for you, your class, or maybe a group of your colleagues. And all you have to do is come to the trials button at the top, choose the collections or resources that you'd like to have access to, fill in a few details, and the request will be sent. And those trials are completely free, and I do encourage you to, if you're interested in maybe a different area of history and you'd like to have access to a resource, please feel free to request a free trial. Okay, so before we get into the first resource, just a little bit of housekeeping. This is being recorded, for one, so you will be getting this recording in a follow-up email either tomorrow or Monday. So you'll have that there for you to keep. It will also be on our YouTube channel next week, so if you can come back to it then. And also, if you've logged in via the BlueJeans on your browser, you'll see there's a chat icon at the top. I'm just going to write hello. I can see there's been a couple of people writing messages in here already, but just in case, you should just see a notification popping up now. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to put them in there, and I can deal with them at the end. So that is about it. So let's get straight into the first resource. So this first one is American Indian Histories and Cultures, and this is a primary source collection sourced from the Newberry Library in Chicago, specifically from the Edward E. Eyre collection. So what's this resource made up of? What's the bulk of it? Well, the main bulk is 16th to 20th century manuscript and printed texts. Those include rare printed books, newspapers, maps, handwritten first-hand accounts of events, correspondence between early European settlers and American Indian communities. The breadth is endless, and I could go on listing all day. But just to go over some of the themes, actually, I'm going to click into the nature and scope page here. Just before I talk about some of the themes that this resource covers, and might give you a better idea for where you can use this in the classroom, or maybe when you can signpost students to this resource. So just to list off a couple, I would say this is a great resource for if students are looking at the relationship between American Indian communities and the early US government through the 18th and 19th century, military encounters through the rough 300-year period that this resource covers, the trade and economics of that relationship. And actually, one thing I did forget was we have a lot of 20th century material in here. So you'll see some magazines that were produced and distributed amongst American Indian communities, and these are about the fight for civil rights within those communities and integration with more Eastern, I guess, American culture. So this is a really wide resource. the date range is 16th century right up to the end of the 20th century. And you can, if you ever want to get a better idea about some of those themes, or whether you think this is the right resource for a class you're teaching or a certain area of the curriculum, this thematic areas starting page is going to be really helpful, or the nature and scope page, which is just going to give you a really brief introduction to this resource. Everything you need is going to be there, and if it's not, please feel free to drop me an email. So I'm just going to click up here to get back to the home page. So I'm just going to run a search for, let's make it close to home, let's run a search for Texas. Well, not my home, obviously. Okay, so we've run a search in our basic search bar, which is right in the top right corner here. So I've just put it in parentheses so we can see Texas. So this is our search results page, as you can see. So just a bit of functionality around this page. I can use these three filters here, so I can filter my search results by the document type, the area in which the material is about or is sourced from, or one of the themes. I showed you that page earlier with a breakdown of themes. You can also refine your search results by these themes as well, which we found really helps upper level high school students or lower level undergraduate students. It gives them a much easier way into primary source material. But I'll just scroll down to give you a better look at some of the material. As you can see here, we can actually use this dynamic filter here. I can actually sort my search results by titles, sort by date, and by the document type as well, or any of these dynamic options. But for now, I'm just going to refine by document type. I'm actually going to refine just by scrapbook, apply that filter. Okay, so I've really refined my results down now to some more appropriate material for what I'm looking for. And what I was looking for in particular was actually this scrapbook here. So I mentioned some of the document types in this resource, and there is an amazing run of these scrapbooks which were put together by this gentleman, Ely Samuel Parker, and what he's done is effectively pulled together a huge array of newspaper clippings around contemporary issues and geographical issues and big news stories throughout the end of the 19th century, and he chronicles all these in these chronological scrapbooks, which are an amazing insight. So that's a bit of background. So what you're seeing here, so we've clicked in from our search results page, and now we're in our document details page. And this is basically a top level platform for where we can move around that particular document we've clicked into. We can move in and out of our search results, move in and out of pages, and various other things. So we've got our thumbnail viewer across the top here, so we can quickly scroll between pages. The red boxes indicate where my search result appears on that page. Here I can add to my archive, which is a personal repository where I can keep all my bookmark documents and pages, but I'll be showing you that a little bit later. I can search for maybe something different. Maybe I've come to the end of a particular search value and I want to search for a different value within this particular document. I can run a search, so I could run a search for cattle ranchers or something along those lines. I can download the entire document, PDF, or just a specific image range. And there's also a citation tool for students if they need to cite this in a paper. And I'm just going to pull down this drop down here, where we can see some really detailed metadata. all the usual stuff, and an extremely useful description as well, which is really going to help either high school students or maybe lower level undergrad students. So put that back up. So here we can see where our search result appears in this document. Just a little snippet of each page it appears on. I'm just going to click into image 28 here. So we've looked around on our document details page to find a page that we might think is useful. So I found image 28 here. I can quickly flick between page numbers if I need to using this drop down. There we go. So what you can see here is the page itself. I can zoom in, zoom out. I'm actually going to toggle this full screen just so we can get a really nice zoom. So the reason I picked this out is Ely Samuel Parker has clipped out these clippings from the Republican Journal from June 1870, and I thought it was quite a nice snippet from a local newspaper, as it showed the relationship between new settler Texans and the American Indian communities who were native to that land. And we can see here we just ran a search of Texas, so our search result appears highlighted, and that's because all of the printed material in this resource is full text searchable. So I'm just going to zoom in so we can give this one a quick read. There we are, some really interesting newspaper clippings. Here's one about the demand for martial law across Texas as well. So that's one document. I'm actually going to head to the advanced search page now. So if a one-word search term or just a couple of search terms isn't enough for you to refine your search term, and students are looking for something really particular, this is the perfect place for them. So you can stem words, you can search for values within a proximity, refine by date, or any of the filters we saw before. Or you can use one of the popular searches along the side here. But I'm actually going to run a search for someone in particular. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Or if there's something in particular you'd like me to search for, or you'd like to have a look at, again, please do let me know. So again, we've clicked in from our search results. We're back in our document details page. So we can quickly flick between pages. But I can see here that this looks to be the title page of the book. If I flick back here, yeah, so I can see that it's the only search result there. So I'm actually just going to click into this page. So I just wanted to show you this as it's an instance of a rare printed book that appears in this resource. But it's actually a printed account of a handwritten manuscript of this gentleman called Peter Williamson, who was from Pennsylvania and on his travels was captured by Cherokee raiders. And after escaping imprisonment, he eventually managed to get back to his home in Pennsylvania and found that his entire life had fallen apart. His house had been burnt down, and his wife was missing, presumed dead. And it's just a fascinating story of a character who was largely lost to history, and it's these rare printed books that we've sourced from the Newbury Library that give a new voice and a new character to this area of history. So I just wanted to show you that it's a personal favourite of mine, I would say. Poor guy. So that largely is American Indian histories and cultures. Just before we move on to the second resource, I just want to quickly show these interactive maps. So if you're looking for a tool, maybe you're trying to introduce students to either just this area of history or primary source research itself, this is a great classroom tool. We've had some great feedback from teachers and students alike, and this is a really nice starting resource, especially if students have never really studied this area of history. So we've got a few different perspectives and styles and skins that we can put over this map. So we can see here just America broken into, I guess, what you could call the culture groups, pre-European settlers. So we click into the southwest region here. So we can actually see each of the Native American tribes broken down by geography here. And these are put together tirelessly by our editorial department, who largely have academic backgrounds and spend months working on these interactive features to make sure that they're really accurate, but provide a slightly different angle to maybe a huge database of primary source research, which can be a little bit daunting. So I'm actually just going to head to the 1700s here. And what we can do here is basically flick through each period just to see, settler influence and their various territories. So we can go into 1780 here. We've got a bit of bio on the left here as well. So you can see here the Spanish frontier being pushed back and back as the 19th century moves on. We can also see land ceded as well. So anyway, that's just a couple of skins that work on this map, but feel free to have a look at the map and have a play around and see whether you think it'd be useful either for your students to get to know themselves or for you to display in a classroom. So I'm just going to close that down. So that is largely, actually one thing I did forget to show you is the visual resource galleries. So as you would imagine, there's a wealth of visual, in quote marks, visual material that we find in these resources, or maybe we don't include in the bulk of the database, but we felt should be published within this resource, and that they make up the visual galleries. 99% of the resources in this visual gallery come from the main documents list, but we wanted to pull them out and make them a separate tab just to give students a bit more of a visual starting point if that's what they find inspiring or that's how they learn. This hopefully is a really good starting point, and they can use this as a platform to leap into the main documents list as well. So what this is made up of, what this is largely made up of is Indian ledger art, Indian illustrations, settler illustrations of communities, paintings, photographs, front covers from the 20th century, civil rights magazines, maps. There's just a huge wealth of different material in here. I'm just going to scroll through just so you can get an idea. Okay, so I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to move on to the second resource here. See, I've already been doing some research. So that was American Indian Histories and Cultures. I'm not going to do so much of the functionality stuff in here because the functionality is, as in how you get around it, how to navigate it, it's exactly the same. The only thing that's different in this resource is the content and the themes you can filter by. So just a bit of background about this resource. This is American West. Again, it is sourced from the Newberry Library in Chicago, but a different collection. This time it's the Everett D. Graff collection. And this is a primary source collection that largely focuses on the westward expansion of America. And it covers first-hand accounts of early settlers and explorers on the American frontier. It covers the relationship between mainly industry and industry men and growing towns and the native communities that were originally settled there. It covers the fiction of the Wild West, like as you just saw on the slide past of Buffalo Bill there. It covers the gold rush, it covers the agricultural revolution and the huge cattle boom, cattle sort of ranch boom that the United States saw as it moved out west, and much more, including the industrial movement such as the railroad and the infrastructure that came with that. And of course, the evolution of huge towns and cities such as Denver. So that's just a bit of background. Again, the document types in this resource, as you can actually see here, so printed books. There's a huge collection of rare printed books in this resource: journals, maps, broadsides, periodicals, personal correspondence, adverts, photographs. I could go on, but I'm actually just going to run a simple search in the top right hand corner here. I'm actually just going to run a search for Gold Rush. I mentioned it's one of the hot topics of this resource. So if this is, again, as I mentioned with the previous resource with the themes, this resource has its own themes as well. So if you're maybe thinking, well, is this something that I can maybe use in my class, or is this relevant to my student syllabus? Hopefully these themes will give you a better idea of whether there's material that you can use in the classroom or whether your students can go fishing for. So I've run a search for Gold Rush. This is my search results page again. I'm just going to give you a quick look at this mining claim. So this is a first-hand document of someone settling out in Colorado and basically making claim to land that was fit for mining. So click into the document page here, and I'm actually just going to toggle that full screen so we can get a better look. Unfortunately, handwritten material in all of our resources isn't full text searchable. I'm afraid it's just too difficult to OCR and get that character recognition, and it would take between 6 and 10 years to probably to handwrite all the words in the resource. And as you can imagine, it's not really that viable. So that's a mining claim. It's a really nice example of a first-hand document of which shows, the gold rush. Head back to my search results. Just going to scroll down here so you can see some more mining claims. I just wanted to show you this miner's guide map here. So document details page, we can see, as this is a visual material, this is a map obviously, so there's barely any text on it, but our search has actually returned our search result in the metadata. So when we search for things, it will return instances of our search result within metadata as well. And obviously, to counteract the fact that manuscripts aren't full text searchable, we have a massive editorial team here who really index manuscripts and handwritten documents extremely thoroughly, so they're as easily accessible as possible. So let's just click into the image here. So this is a miner's guide map, which I really like. It's really colourful, and I think it's fantastic to either put on a blackboard site or maybe as a cover image for a presentation or something like that. So we can see here all the river veins. So if you ever fancy going searching for gold in the Yukon, there is your map. Okay, so let's untoggle full screen. I'm just going to head back to the home page. So as we did before, we also have some visual resources and maps in this resource. I'm just going to click into the maps first of all. We have some data maps in this resource, which again are fantastic for either the classroom or students getting to know this area of history. So with 4 different styles of skin, I'm going to click on the political boundaries. So we can see the boundaries being established over key dates here. We've got a bit of bio on the left hand side here. Let's click into the next one. And this is actually my favourite map. So this is a map tracking key travel routes across the United States. Particularly like this one, stagecoach routes. So we can see here that the key Pony Express and stagecoach routes, which ran across, the Great Basin and through the Rockies. We can also look at some of the key transport routes across the West as well. So that's that. I'm just going to quickly show you the visual resources, as I realise we're very short on time. So I mentioned earlier that you can bookmark all of these at any page or document within any of the Adam Matthew resources. I'm actually just going to do that for you now. So say I find an image that I want to either put on my Blackboard site or send around as a PDF to my students, for example. I can click into it, and I can use this button up here called Add to Lightbox. You will need to set a lightbox up. You will need to put in your an email address and password, but that doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go to any database. It's just to give you a really quick login. You don't need to verify anything, but just enter a password, your name, and your email address, and you'll have your own personal repository every time you access this resource. So I've added that to my lightbox. If I head to my lightbox up here, so these are a lot of images that I've added at other points, but you can see here that our poster is here, and you can actually create different folders and display it in different ways, put it into a presentation mode. So if you want students to, you can create your own Lightbox login, and you can distribute it amongst your students if you've put together a specific group of images that you would like your students to access. So that is largely it for American West. Again, exactly the same layout. You have the main documents list, some maps that with different skins, visual resources that we've pulled out. We also have a list of further resources which are mainly contextual and are useful to read around the main documents list. So there's some academic essays, a brief overview of the thematic areas, again, which may be helpful if you're trying to work out whether this stuff is relevant to you. An interactive chronology, and we can also use this cross-searching button. And this allows us, you do have access to this, and this will allow you to search for material across both resources at the same time. So I could run a search for cattle ranchers, or cattle ranch, within 5 words of Texas, and then I could run a search, and it would give me results from both American West and American Indian histories and cultures. So that is that. Let's head back to this home. Okay, do we have any questions? Because that's it for the content. And I'll just give you a quick. I will be sending you all this information in a follow-up email tomorrow. But just a reminder that the URLs are aihc.amdigital.co.uk for American Indians, or more simply americanwest.amdigital.co.uk for American West. But again, as I said, that will be in my follow-up email tomorrow. So that is it from me. Do we have any questions from any of you guys? Okay, so I see a few questions here, so I'll start from the top. I can see the screen but wonder if I should be hearing anything. Hopefully, Sarah, you can hear us now, and hopefully you've heard us throughout. This has been recorded, so fear not, you haven't missed out. Susan asks, are you still publishing in this database? No, this database, both databases are, for the moment, in quote marks, complete. But we have a massive development team who are constantly working with archives around the world. And if we find a new bulk of material or a new selection that we think would really add and bring something new to the resource and is relevant, then we will look at adding to it. But for the moment, there's no plans to add to it. Another question from Susan, difference between Lightbox and Archive. Good question, I didn't actually cover that. So really quickly in 20 seconds, the difference is my archive, if I click into it here, is for storing whole documents. And basically you add an entire document by, there's a button on the document details page. So before we click into an individual page, we have our document details page. You can add that entire document on that page there. But if you just want to add a particular page or a particular image from the visual galleries, my Lightbox is what you're going to need there. So it's whole documents for my archive, and individual pages go in my Lightbox. Great. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, if you do think of any after we finished our session today, you'll be getting an email from me tomorrow. So please feel free to ask anything then. And hopefully you've got a better idea about how to use these resources and about some of the great content in this in both of them. There's some amazing primary source content, and I hope you and your students may find it useful. Really, it's simple as that. So that's it from me. As we have any other last questions, I think we will end it there. So thanks very much for attending today. Really appreciate it. I will be sending around a link to a feedback form in the follow-up email tomorrow, and we really appreciate any feedback we get about these webinars. But hopefully you find the content useful. So that's it from me. Have a great day.